Hey, good morning, everyone. My name is Jenny Jetson. Hello, Jenny Jetson here. This is my first podcast. I can't believe it. I'm new to this. Let me just start out by saying this. I'm new to this. Please be patient with me. I'm trying to figure out all of this technology and weird mics and everything that needs to happen to have a podcast. But I just wanted to jump in, stop procrastinating, and just get it done. So just let me introduce myself. Jenny Jetson, I'm a multiple gunshot wound survivor. What? Yeah, let that sink in. I was shot twice in my home under 2 years ago, once through my chest and once in my knee, where there's now a steel plate drilled into my leg. So, why am I on the air right now? Why am I recording a podcast? Why am I sitting in my closet at home during COVID-19 trying to figure out how I can help and talk to people? Well, it's a really good question and something that I'd like to address. I feel compelled to tell my story to help people recover through their trauma. And in the wake of COVID-19, with so many people experiencing different types of trauma, being stuck at home, maybe they're in a dangerous situation, maybe they've lost loved ones and their life has been shaken to the core. But I think what we all have in common is we're going to be getting back to work. So instead of just talking to victims of violent traumatic experiences, which is where I was headed during all of this, the downturn, really taking time to tell my story to help people overcome the trauma of violent situations, I thought, well, let's pivot real quick and talk to a broader audience, which is really going to be, how are we all going to get back to work? What's the new normal going to be like? And if you're a person that has experienced more trauma than others, what might you do to help yourself really transition back into the workforce? And for those of you who have not yet experienced trauma, I think there are going to be some good tips and tools that you might either want to squirrel away, or in dealing with people that are coming back into the workforce that have experienced trauma, maybe you should take a little bit of time to figure out how you might be able to deal with those folks a little bit more effectively on the day-to-day when they get back into work. So thank you for tuning in. What do I want to talk about first? Well, I thought I would tell you a little bit about me. I am sitting in my closet. For those of you who are watching this online, you can see it in the background. So why is this lady sitting in her closet? There's a little bit of a fun story behind that. So I grew up in Seattle, Washington. Woohoo! Hey, Seattle folks, in the Wallingford district. And I was part of a magnet school program in the 70s, which racially balanced all of the schools, which meant that myself was shipped down to another part of the South End. It was called the CD part of Seattle. So I was a minority growing up. For those of you who can't see me, I am a, I'm a blonde-haired, green-eyed, natural blonde kind of lady. So yeah, they're shooting up nice white ladies in this country now too. I'm just saying. But I was raised in a very ethnic, diverse environment from a very, very early age. I still have a very diverse group of friends and family. I take a lot of pride in the fact that I don't think about color of skin and circumstances as much as most people probably do in this country, because I was just raised in an environment where that was not a possibility. Being prejudiced, especially when you're not the minority or the majority, was just not an option for me. But anyway, so I always had a long bus ride in the morning, so I would get up early and often listen to the radio. I love music. And there was this fabulous disc jockey in the morning. She had a radio program. Her name was Veronica Weichel. She had this great Veronica Weichel voice. I do not have a radio voice. Maybe this would be good. Or maybe I could talk, my radio voice could be something like this. Because I seriously don't have the great radio voice today. Maybe I'll improve in that and figure out how to talk on the radio and not sound like I don't know, like a drag queen. But anyway, I was fascinated by listening to Veronica Weichel because she did the show live from her bedroom closet in her house. Her husband and her small child were still asleep, and she would be on the radio talking about whatever she was talking about. And the part of the show of hers that I liked listening to the most was the weather. When she would do kind of the weather forecast, it was, I mean, I should say, it's Seattle. It's always rain, slanting rain, stinging rain, sideways rain, big fat drops of rain, light rain, right? 1,000 different ways to talk about the rain in Seattle. So what she would do is she would sneak out of her closet and open the bedroom window, and you would hear her kind of struggling to open this heavy window. And she would say, okay, it's almost okay now. It's heavy, but I can stick my arm out. And she would, so let me move my arm out and see what I can see. And how dark is it outside? How thick is the cloud cover? And I was just visualizing this woman in her closet, and she would be talking, and she'd be like, oh, did I wake him up? No, he's still snoring. He just turned over. It's fine. And she would talk, and I was just fascinated by this whole, that she could work from home in her closet, be on the radio, and had this fabulous Veronica Weichel. Hi, I'm Veronica Weichel voice. But if I ever did anything podcast-y, recording voice stuff, that I would do an homage and really go back and kind of do Veronica Weichel style. So, hey, Veronica, she's still alive in Seattle. This is me doing a little bit Veronica Weichel style. So this is what I'm doing in my closet right now. So I'm literally sitting in my closet. I should also say that during COVID-19, there are multiple people in my house right now. And in my closet is the most I can hide away, because I'm hardest to find here. Even the dog won't come in the closet. So it's the one place where I can kind of be quiet away from the world and have a quiet moment to do some recording. So here I am. I'd like to do about 20 of these. Please be kind to me. I'm figuring all of this out, and the technology, what I'm going to be talking about. My intent is really to go through my own traumatic experience. But then it's really the post-trauma, which is where I think we need a lot more time and energy spent on in the recovery process, especially when it comes to gun violence in particular. My trauma tended to be of a violent nature. Not everybody, luckily, is going to experience traumatic violence, but for those who have, I see you. And it is lonely and it is tough. And I'm so happy that you survived. I have empowered myself through my survival of surviving to thriving by really taking the narrative as my own and empowering myself and my voice. And most days I feel like a superhero, that I was lucky enough to survive this thing that I shouldn't have survived. So for those individuals who are interested in taking their narrative and empowering themselves with it, I would really love to talk with you and see what I can do. That's what my books are going to be about. You can find me at IAMJennyJetson.com. I have what do I have? I have a Twitter account, trying to figure all that stuff out. You can find me on Facebook, I am Jenny Jetson. And I've been trying to document my recovery from surviving to thriving. The way that I look at this traumatic experience in my life is that, if I merely just survive a situation, I'm lucky to have survived, and I'm blessed to have survived, and it was a miracle that I survived. But if I don't continue to live my life with meaning and purpose, and the person that I used to be, that Jenny that I loved and adored so much, if she ceases to exist, then the person who really tried to kill me wins. And the Jenny that I know and love really is no longer. If I internalize and hide and stop taking risks and learning and getting out into the world, and most importantly now, giving back, which is what this is to me. I feel compelled to tell my story. And if there's anybody that I can help along the way, then my life being saved is worth it. And I can die knowing that my life made a difference and I did something. So I see you. Those of you who have experienced trauma, I'm here to help. I think that what you can get on the clinical side, which I am not a clinical psychiatrist, I'm not a doctor in any means, but I am what I consider a SME, subject matter expert, when it comes to recovering quickly from trauma. Mine was of a violent nature, created a narrative that empowered me, and moving my life forward and taking this trauma with me and continuously working on it. So if that's something that interests you, with real world examples, all the people that I've talked to along the way, how to get the most out of your appointments if you want to go see trauma counselors, which I think is an important, everything that I did to really help propel me to where I am today, I'd be happy to share everything. That's what I was doing in the book. But I figure with COVID-19, there's probably more people that need to hear this message. So if I can get it out quickly now and then figure out how to write the book at the same time, I'm going to be doing that. So I just mentioned that I am not any kind of, trained PhD doctor, but what I am is a single parent, a multiple gunshot wound survivor. I'm the parent of a teenager. I am currently not employed due to COVID-19. But before that, I've always been in the world of finance and technology and private equity. And my role there was either helping to raise capital or looking to really up the level of executive talent. So a lot of executive search and strategy with the goal of really raising capital valuation at these companies. So high growth, kind of fast growth, high growth, who's the best person, talking folks into jobs, thinking about the future, assessing people quickly, having real in-depth conversation. I'm quite intuitive. I'm quite transparent. These are skills that come naturally to me. I'm curious and I like to learn. So I think all of that has helped me in my recovery get to the point where I am today, which is, how do you go from losing everything to getting your life back? I feel personally that I'm on my climb. I'm on my mountain. I'm heading to the top of it. That's my goal, to get to the top of the mountain. I have no idea what the view is going to be like when I get there. I really don't care, but I'm a mission. I'm to get to the top. I'm driven to do that. And anybody who would like to see my journey, see my struggles, my ups, my downs, my good days, my bad days, everything that I've had to do to survive post my life not being taken from me, right? But going from really surviving to thriving, I'm on that journey. And if you would like to join me and take any of the tricks and tips that I've learned along the way, I would love to have you on that. So again, Jenny Jetson, IAMJennyJetson.com. You can find me there. And if you'd like to schedule some time with me, that would be great. I'd be interested in talking to companies who might want somebody to come in and speak with their employees or talk about programs that they might be able to develop from a diversity and inclusion. As far as, are you talking to people who have trauma? It's kind of a hidden deep dark thing, because you can sometimes, for most people, you don't see what's going on behind the curtain. And I think it's important to give people that have trauma a bit of a voice. um, One other thing I would like to say is, because my trauma is of a violent nature and it has to do with guns, uh, in this country currently, the minute that you talk about gun violence, it becomes politically polarizing. So I want to create a safe space here. This is not about politics. I don't want to get into the Republican, the Democrat point of view, the Second Amendment rights. I'm not here to take away your guns. I don't want to talk about your guns. I don't care about your guns. The problem that I have is that when we talk about gun violence right away, the victims of it, the people who had nothing to do with any of it, we're not really given a space to talk about and express the experience that we had and the recovery that we need to get over it, because it turns into a Second Amendment right. The Republicans and the Democrats and all, and that's not fair. It's just not fair, right? I mean, it's like, mothers against drunk driving, right? We're not saying let's take away the booze. We're saying, maybe let's not drink and drive. And I don't even want to go there. So just let me say that I feel that we really need to give victims of gun violence some space to heal and to talk about their experience, irrespective of the political climate. So I would like to make sure that this is going to be a kind of a politically neutral environment as much as possible. I'd be interested in answering any questions. I'm trying to be very transparent in my recovery, the good, the bad, and the ugly. doing a lot of soul searching and what made me able to survive, what are my strengths, what would people want to hear about from me. And I think a lot of it is just the willingness to get on camera, get on the airwaves, and talk to people about how difficult it can be mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually, to get over a trauma, and how active one needs to be in order, I think, to be as productive as quickly as possible so that we can function in the world again. So that's a bit about me. Let's see, what did I get? Let's see. I have little note cards here so I can stay on point. Again, I'm trying to figure this out. Okay. So I think, the topics of getting back to work, I think it can be pretty universal right now. And, a little bit about my story. I'm trying to keep this under 20 minutes because I hear that that's what's great about pod. I'm at 16. Okay. So I was shot multiple times in my home. The very short version, it's a wonderfully dramatic story. I can't wait to make it a movie one day. I even have the happy ending um, all mapped out, and it'll be a great film. So if you're interested in that, let me know. But the short story is I moved into a beach rental in 2018, the beginning of June, with my daughter and a dog. And it's really hard to find a rental with a dog that's not just a super dump. So this was a semi dump, what I could figure out how to make it nice. Anyway, 4 weeks after I moved in to this beach rental, the neighbor across the street broke into the house while my 15-and-a-half-year-old daughter was home alone. That's the first thing that happened. Um, the police took a report. Nothing was done from the police standpoint, and I continued to call the police looking for some kind of police report. I didn't know the person's last name. I'm not sure how much danger we were in. I was still unpacking boxes and was very happy to pack them up and move on my life. But I just given the landlady a ton of cash to move in, as you do in a competitive housing market. So she was not interested in giving me my money back. And I knew that I was going to have I was going to need to have some kind of legal documentation, something stating that this happened to break the lease. So I continued to follow up with the police. I didn't get any phone calls back, but 6 weeks later, they showed up at my door unannounced and said, "Yep, we've been getting your messages and we haven't been able to get a hold of the guy. And we've gone over a couple times. He sees us and then kind of runs away to his backyard. But, we said, hey, leave the nice lady across the street alone. So, we're working on it." And I thought, well, that's all well and good, but I'm going to at least need maybe an email from you. I don't know, something with your letterhead saying that I called you, that we went over a report, we talked about it, something saying that this happened, and I made an effort to report it in the right channels. So he said, "Okay, tell me what happened again." And he's like, "Okay, well, here's a case number." He wrote it on the back of the card. And as he was leaving, my neighbor was across the street, standing inside. He had one of those metal screen doors, and the police officer engaged him in a conversation along the lines of, "Hey, you're hard to get a hold of. We had your side of the story. We haven't had your side of the story." And my neighbor immediately erupted into a ball of rage and speaking to this police officer, and really said every horrible racist thing that you could to a police officer. Suck my this, F you that. I laugh when police officers are killed. I YouTube it. You guys are, terrible, awful. You're never going to, put handcuffs on me, and just F you, F you, F you. And I was just like, wow, well, this is why I called you the first time. He breaks into the house and then blames me for it, right? So now this is the same kind of individual that I'm witnessing. And the police officer continued to engage him, and then got into his police car and left. There was a knock on my door immediately after the engagement, and I thought, oh, the police officer must have just gotten in his car and came into the driveway, and now we're going to have that follow-up conversation. But it was my neighbor. Closed the door, comes over to the window, which is right next to the door, punches through the window, tries to grab the window screen. The window is open, and then punches through the screen to try and grab me, goes home, walks back over with a large handgun and proceeds to shoot his way into the house, break down the door, shot me once through the chest. I was barricaded myself in the bathroom. I had a friend over. She was in the bathroom screaming on the phone with 911. I got shot in the chest about here, looked down and kind of blood was I could see all of this blood and thought, oh my God. I got down on the ground. He tried to break in. I was able to stop him from breaking in and got shot again in the knee. So now I couldn't run and played dead. Told my friend to, start screaming that I was dead loud enough for him to hear. That seemed to have worked. He left. There was a 17-hour police standoff and they evacuated the neighborhood. So that's as short of a story as I can probably get into. He ended up surrendering when they told him that I survived the situation. He's currently sitting in county jail, fighting the charges as not guilty by reason of insanity. He's hired the most expensive lawyers in the county to fight it. So I'm in for the long haul of trying to prove or not prove a mental illness. So what that did to me personally is I had to move out of the home. My daughter was living with school friends. I was living in another county with some adult friends who had space for me. And I had to figure out if I was going to be able to keep my leg and then use my leg, get well enough to, get any kind of job so that I could rent a place to live, which was very difficult to do. And then have to step into that role of, okay, this just happened to me. I've got to deal with everything at the same time. And I think that I've done a pretty good job of getting myself on track and a productive member of society with really a positive attitude and now wanting to help others. So that's who I am in a nutshell from a trauma perspective, from a length of time, what I've had to deal with post trauma, and what I'm continuing to do as I move forward with it. So again, I am Jenny Jetson. You can find me at IAMJennyJetson.com. You can find me on Facebook. You can find me on Twitter. I will be posting these once a week. I'm going to go through next week, probably the early stages of trauma, what to expect. And I'm going to leave you some tips on what to do upon entering the workplace and what to expect once you get there, how to deal with your mental state. Thank you for watching. If you're driving, have a very safe drive. Thank you so much for tuning in. This is our, kickoff voyage. Woo-hoo, here I am. Sorry about the squeaky voice. And have a great, great day. Nothing but blessings. I hope you too are going from surviving to thriving. We are all in it together. I'll see you next time. Thank you.